What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, I have with us Sean Davis. Sean, would you mind just kind of giving us a story of a personal, what we like to call ground zero moment for you? And that can be anything that you personally relate to, like we talked about before this call. Just, whatever story you're willing to share with us along that regard, and then a little bit that you learned along the way to help you to get to where you are now.
Yeah, so I go back to my freshman year of college. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a senior here at Westminster College. And if we go back my freshman year, fall of 2018, I just graduated high school at the time. I had an awesome summer, just kind of hanging out, doing a lot of fun things. And I came to school thinking, oh, it's going to be just like high school. Like I just kind of do what I needed to do, not really put much more effort than I needed to, to get things done or whatever. And I quickly realized that wasn't the case. And for me, being a pretty much straight A student in high school, I found myself having multiple C's in some of my classes. And in addition to not having the best grades, I also play baseball here, and I was wrapping up the worst fall I'd ever had playing baseball. This is kind of evil, I think, in a way. But our the old head coach used to post the statistics on the dugout after every scrimmage, after every practice, and I constantly saw my name at the bottom. I had the lowest average, most strikeouts on the team at that point. And in addition to that, I had a longtime girlfriend at the time that I had just broken up with. And I remember sitting down on the stairs outside my dorm thinking, what had happened, what went wrong, what was I doing? And I kind of sat there and thought, well, I definitely need to figure something out here. And fortunately, that was the week of fall break. I went home, kind of recouped over fall break, and then I came back and kind of dedicated myself more towards school since baseball, the fall had ended at that point. I was able to get my grades up to an A, and I finished not the 4.0, but pretty close to that. And it was that point in October I realized, all right, like I need to focus on something. I need to kind of get myself together here, and that's kind of what set the tone for the rest of my college career. Now, I'm happy to say I'm a senior. Dean's List. Presumably starting the outfield this year for baseball, and just really kind of worked my way through those problems that kind of got me where I am here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can personally relate a lot to like the story that you just shared. As I had kind of similar issues when I came in to college as playing as a basketball player. And a lot of it, I guess you could say, is a culture shock, despite why people might say this is a glorified high school. But it still is much different in terms of structure, and it's a whole new environment being away from home and being around a lot more people that you're not familiar with whatsoever. And it's just one of those times where things like that happen, and that's where I like to think about, we make the most growth, because like in that moment right there, you really had to figure out, like, for yourself, what am I going to do now? How am I going to bounce back from this? What does my life look like from here? And really, what can I do about this current situation that I'm in? And in doing so, you set some goals, and you said, you know what, I want to get my grades up to an A. I want to improve my performance on the field by the spring. And you assessed those goals, and then you put in the work to get there. And that's where, like I said, I can heavily relate, as I was also coming in here as an athlete. So it really just it's still not what you expect. And that's where that, like I said, that culture shock comes in, and you really just kind of have to learn on your own how to think on your feet, because for a lot of us, this is the first time we've ever been on our own and had to do something like that. Like, you don't have your parents there. You don't have that same group of friends. I mean, unless you all went to some local college, but either way, odds are you don't have that same circle around you to help you through all of those issues and things that you might have had before. So that's where, college really, for some of us, kind of just hits you like a punch in the face, and you really just kind of have to figure it out from there. I don't know if you want to attest to that a little bit more, just as to kind of what was going through your head at that time, as you'd kind of been knocked down, and this was really one of those times that you had to kind of pick yourself up all on your own.
Yeah, so that really, like you just alluded to, first time I've been knocked down. So throughout life, it's been fortunately very comfortable. Haven't dealt with many large issues that a lot of people are faced with early on. And for me, I like I said, I just thought it'd just be the same old thing. And getting knocked down for the first time, really, it was as tough as it was. I needed that. I needed not to always get an A in the class, not to always be the starter on the field, not to always, not have things given to you, because I've worked hard, for to get to where I am, but not see success immediately. And I feel like that was vital to kind of figuring out, how life really works, and how to bounce back from adversity. I think was huge. And it kind of also taught me that, as bad as things can get sometimes, to pause, think about it. There's always a solution, and there's a way to figure out and solve the problem. That was, I think, a huge growing up and maturing point I had at that point. And I wouldn't say I'm the most mature for my age, but I feel like that really helped me establish kind of that baseline for sure, and to kind of go from there. So it was a really big learning point. I would say it's something that definitely has helped me get through bigger challenges throughout my college career, and even just setbacks I've had since then, to kind of just persevere and kind of keep going.
Yeah,
Something that I
absolutely. Oh,
would
go
love
ahead, April.
Oh, thank you. Something that I would love to add to that, though, is that anyone who's watching or listening, I'm not sure if they know that we are all kind of semi-local to the college that we attended. So Sean and I are both about from 20 minutes, 30 minutes away. And Aaron, I think you're about maybe 30 to 40 minutes away from Westminster. And for all of our different struggles, and just like real quick for me, when I first came in, of course, I stayed a month and I was like, this isn't for me. And I went back home because I was only 20 minutes away. I was like, okay, I'm going to go do something else because this isn't working out for me right away. Same thing, 4.0 student, self-starter, doing the whole thing. And then you get to Westminster. And even though I feel like the experience is incredible and you do get a lot of that one-on-one, like Aaron said, like people say that it's a glorified high school. I mean, I can definitely see where they get that idea, but I mean, they take the time and they care, which is still very similar to high school, but at that time it wasn't enough. And you didn't give up. You weren't like, oh, you know what? I live super close. I'm not doing this. I'm just going to go back home. So for everything that you went through and those initial steps of adjusting and doing all of this, good for you, Sean, for not saying like, this is too much. I'm just going to go back home. I'm going to work. I don't want to do it. Like you stuck it out and you didn't have to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But part of it also, by being so close, you can always say, oh, like I'm just going to go home. And as I talked to before, going home for fall break, it was really good to go home and kind of talk to my parents to kind of explain everything that was going on. And for me, like I have a very large family. My so-called immediate family is about 20, 25 of us. Like I have a very large, big old Italian family. So, part of that was going home and talking to my family about things. And that really helped as well. And having a support system like that has been huge throughout everything. So although going home, being close could be a detriment, it honestly probably helped me in a way. But I totally see what you're saying as well. It's very easy to just kind of give up and take the easy way out of things. But, having a support system is huge in those lines as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I do just want to chime in here for the viewers a little bit. I apologize that I didn't give anybody a heads up that April's kind of lurking in the background of our interview today. If she were to surprise anybody, she's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but she is still here and will chime in, as we go on today. But I do want to allude back a little bit to one of the things that Sean mentioned just prior to April's point. And one of the things that that said to hit me was that, like you got knocked down, but you needed it. And I just want to touch on that for a second, because I think a lot of us spend too much time trying to avoid those moments. And I will openly admit that I'm one of those people. But I can honestly tell you as well, from having a similar story to yours, but also just from what I've learned from those points, that I needed that to happen. Because in order for me to get to where I am, I had to lose what I had. And, whether that's a girlfriend, whether that's a sport, whatever that is, like oftentimes in order for you to get to that next point for yourself, you have to lose something else. Like you only have so much, I guess you could say, like emotional capacity. I don't know the right word for that. I'm sorry. But there's only so much that you can carry. And like you'd mentioned, you'd been knocked down. But at the same time, like you were able to recognize that and you knew what you had to do. And you said, you know what, I got to slough this off and I got to keep moving. And that's where, like you said, like it's in those moments that the change occurs, that you realize, you know what, this is a moment for me to learn. This is a moment for me to get better. And this is something that I can use to move myself forward. And I think that's a really, huge habit to build up, especially at a point like we are, just being young, that we're going to incorporate for the rest of our lives. And like I love also that April pointed out, good for you, that, like not all of us can do that. And that's one huge kudos to you, but as well as being willing to come on here and share that story with somebody else who needs to hear it. So, I really appreciate that as well. And I know it's a little early for me to be saying thank you in the interview, but still, I really do appreciate it. So anyway, I want to kind of go back to your ground zero moment there for a minute. And I know you mentioned that support system, and just touching on that a little bit further, like for someone who say maybe doesn't have a massive family or doesn't have a family that they're extremely close with, that maybe they just don't understand what exactly they're pursuing. I can say that I'm one of those people. Like, I mean, I've always wanted to go to college. My parents always pushed me to college, but they haven't exactly always understood some of the vision that I have for things that I just want to achieve, through over my lifespan. But what I guess I'm trying to ask is for someone like that doesn't really know who to talk to or doesn't necessarily have that person to turn to, what would you kind of say to them being in that new environment, not really knowing, who or where to go?
So for me, although my family was a huge part, there are two other groups of people that really helped me get through that. The first was honestly my teammates. So I know not everyone's on a sports team, and I understand that's an honor to be on one, but there were a lot of juniors and seniors that I'd look up to, and I kind of talked to them, and they were very beneficial in helping me out because they'd been there before. They understand. They know the transition. They get the course load and how to manage time. So talking to a teammate was very fortunate. And some of those guys that have graduated a few years ago, I still talk to and so very close with. And kind of building that network is huge. But another one is honestly professors. As cliche as it sounds, they're your biggest asset. So like, again, fortunately at a small college, your professor knows you by name. He knows what sport you play. He knows what building you live in. Like they know a lot about you, which some people might not like, but I think it's incredible. And during that time, I got in to talk to some of them, and it was nice to tell them that yeah, you're struggling or whatever, but we see who you are. You're a good kid. You come to class. You participate. We know there's something there, and having them in your corner and having their support as well, and them knowing that you can do it, it is really beneficial. That's one of the great advantages of going to small colleges. I know a lot of people say, oh, you're at a small college in the middle of nowhere. Like, what do you do what do you do on the weekends? Well, yeah, like that's fun, but at the same time, like I feel like that's more important. The connections you build and the network you kind of create over time is worth more than going to some of the bigger schools that some people will go to. So those are the two biggest influences for me, other than a family.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that pretty much everything you just said is really important as well. Just, if you don't necessarily already have that support system, being willing to kind of open yourself up to finding one. And I mean, being honest, colleges are a great place to do that. But I mean, it is a little technical. Like if you don't have that and you're not on a sports team, where like a sports team is kind of like being automatically sworn into a fraternity or a club, where you just automatically have that group of people that you're going to be with all the time. And kind of whether you like it or not, you're going to get close with them and you're going to get to know each other better. Whereas if you don't have that, you do have to do a little bit of searching. You have to find a club or something that you're interested in, or you have to find a group of people that maybe you see doing something on campus that you also enjoy, and you can kind of try to spend some more time with them, get to know them better, kind of make your way into that circle. There's just different ways that you can kind of open yourself up to the opportunity. I mean, if nothing else, you just do what you enjoy. See who becomes attracted to you. See, who is into the things that you're into, and then, let them come to you. Build your own circle. Or, if that's not what you're into either, spend the time on yourself. Find the things that you truly enjoy. And, that's where a lot of the time, like after I stepped away from basketball, that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. I found out, what did I really enjoy? What did I really want to do? Like, what did I really see for myself as far as my future goes? And that's kind of touching back on another one of the points that you said earlier, that you kind of just had to sit in that moment. You had to quiet your mind, and you just kind of had to, listen to yourself, listen to the moment, bask in that situation, and just take it in for what it was and say, this is a low, but what can I do from here?
And Aaron, you bring up a great point. So I'm glad you said that. Part of, I think, what helped me through is I'm a joiner. I have a hard time saying no, which usually can be a bad thing, but for me, I think it's a great thing. So during, that time, and including talking to my teammates and professors, I'm a joiner. So for me, I joined Enactus on campus, which is a socioeconomic organization. I joined the Westminster Entrepreneurship Center, which kind of name speaks for itself, but it's an entrepreneurship group that takes on real world projects. And even joining things such as flag football. I joined the flag football league, got on the team, and that really helps kind of just get your mind off things and kind of play a game. And those kind of things help as well. I met a lot of incredible students through that and people I'm still friends with today, and worked on some projects that have led to, experiences and possible job opportunities. I feel like one of the biggest things in college is you got to be a joiner. So I know a lot of people who just do, just play their sport or are just in their fraternity, which is fine. But I think by getting involved is huge, because not only does it kind of give you something to do other than go to class, but also you never know what opportunities can arise from that. So even just from a silly flag football game, you might find out someone's in your same age and you're being best friends and working on a project together, or just by showing up to a meeting, you end up becoming president as I was, and you end up working on these really cool projects. So you never know. I feel like being a joiner and saying yes and getting involved is also one of the biggest ways to not only, get yourself out there, but to really learn and experience everything, in your college time. That's another thing that really helped me get through that those first beginning months of the semester.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the biggest thing you touched on there is just being open to opportunity and possibility. You kind of just have to surrender yourself to whatever comes your way. And like you said, you have to be a joiner. You kind of have to put yourself into those situations for opportunities to happen. And that's where, like you said, you never know what those opportunities entail, like whether that could be a new best friend or whether that could be a business partner. Like you never know really what's going to come out of those things. You just have to kind of put yourself into the situation for something to happen and be open for it whenever it comes to you. And that's where you also mentioned a lot of things that you've done now. You've obviously, kind of blown up as far as on-campus life goes. Um, and, becoming president of WEC and, lots of other things as well. But, you've come a long way, I guess you could say, from that original ground zero, which was 4 years ago now. Can you believe it? But point being that, you've made those strides and you've made things happen for yourself. What I want to ask is, after you were taking on these new possibilities and these new roles and really kind of starting to strive for a new you per se, what was kind of the first roadblock you hit after you were then making the changes? So now, you were at your ground zero, you decided to make a change, you started making things happen. Then what happened?
Yeah, so that was obviously fall freshman year. So the spring rolled around, not right away. So I took a lighter course load, again, try new things, try to see how I can kind of utilize my time the most. Played a baseball season. Things went better. Played some games, started some games. Felt pretty confident. I'd say the next roadblock, honestly, and this is again a very common answer people say, but it was honestly March 2020. So at that point, things are going well. Was easing into classes, started working on internships and those things, and then all of a sudden, COVID happened. And for us, it was a really odd experience. So we were actually down in Florida. We we're in spring break playing baseball, and we had heard about this going on, and we are like, okay, yeah, whatever. And it was the kind of silly, like after a couple games, we weren't allowed to shake hands with the other team. We're like, oh, okay, like whatever. And then sure enough, we were playing a game March 13th, and this was after the Ivy League and the Big Ten, and camps started shutting down. We're like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, and sure enough, we were playing a game, and I was on deck, and our coach got a phone call, and we all kind of knew. We're like, there's no way. And coach got off the phone, called time. He said, all right, boys, that's it. And our conference had canceled our season, and we were in Florida, so we were supposed to play a doubleheader, and our plane was supposed to leave till 8 o'clock that night, and it was 10 in the morning. So they canceled our game. We packed up, showered, and we were in Florida for the rest of the day. And we weren't really sure kind of if we were going to get home, if our flight was going to get changed. It was a really odd time. And then we found a way home. Didn't get home till 2 in the morning the next day, and then that was it. Like, we didn't go back to school. We had to learn online, and I kind of grinded everything to a halt, everything I've been working on. And kind of a silver lining of that was I have part of my family has a business, and I've been looking at internships. And after everything kind of got shut down or canceled or whatever, I reached out to them. I said, listen, like, I need an internship. I think it'd be cool to work for you guys. And they brought me on. It was in person. It was, a great experience. I made a lot of connections there and learned a lot. But yeah, it was definitely a big roadblock for me because I didn't know kind of where I was, what we were doing, what in the world was happening, how long this is going to last, and kind of threw a wrench in a lot of. I know, fortunately, as a sophomore, I saw a lot of time, but I know a lot of people had jobs, canceled, had internships pulled, and for me, it was kind of like, well, now how long is it going to last? Am I ever going to get a job? Like, it was a very strange time. That was one of the first real roadblocks in the process. But yeah, it was something for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think calling it something is almost somewhat of an understatement. You know, yeah, it was a hell of a time. And ironically, I was actually down in Florida when they shut everything down too, but I was just there for spring break. I was not playing baseball. Um, and yeah, I can kind of relate to like just kind of the moment everything kind of happened for us back here. I remember getting an email from the school. I remember getting a call from my parents. And then kind of just having to look at the group of people that I was with and go like, well, now what? Like, we're
Yeah.
supposed to be here for another couple of days. What are we doing? Because like they're starting to shut everything down here. They're talking about closing the state. Like, what are we supposed to do? How, like, are we still going to get home? Like, what all is going on? Luckily, none of that really became an issue. We were still, totally fine in getting home and everything. But like you said, that we had to shift online, and none of us really knew what the future looked like there. And I think a lot for me, and I guess I wasn't really like afraid, but I was just kind of like, I didn't know what was next. And I was just kind of like taking it as it came, just kind of seeing, where everything was going. I think a lot of us were just a lot kind of confused at the time, because none of us really thought it was that bad. And then all of a sudden, we were one of those schools that was shut down too. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm kind of asking here is like during a time like that of kind of heavy uncertainty, fear, doubt, just a lot of things kind of going through your head, a lot of emotions that we really don't even know how to comprehend just because it was the first time we'd ever been through something like that. What were you kind of able to do to keep your head on straight in that time with kind of everything going absolutely haywire?
So to be honest, at the beginning it was awful. I remember I got home and I remember just laying on top of my bed for a few days and just very angry. I was very upset with what had happened. I think it was fair. I thought, I was getting robbed of a season, of a college experience, and I was angry for a couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie. And then after that kind of set down, I kind of just accepted what was happening. I got into reading and I got on the podcast. So, obviously I couldn't leave, couldn't go see my friends, really couldn't do anything. I was stuck at home. Fortunately, as crazy it is, the schoolwork that I still had to do kind of gave me something to do during the day, and that kind of helped. But in my free time, at night, I sat down, I read a few books. One book that comes to mind is Quench Your Own Thirst. It's about the Jim Koch who created Sam Adams and built his company, which is a pretty cool book to read. Very easy read, a lot of life lessons. And then, believe it or not, I read a baseball book about Ken Harrelson. He played baseball back in the 70s and 80s, and just kind of his biography, his take on life. A lot of real world, problems and kind of crazy stories that he was involved in with his life, which is pretty cool. And I started doing the podcast. So I never got into them before. I never listened to one, but I'm bored. I got nothing else to do. So I listened to a few, listened to the Joe Rogan podcast and a couple on investing and business and just kind of just different avenues of it. And that kind of helped me pass the time and pick up a few more additional business ideas and tips and knowledge on investing and real world experiences and things. So that really helped. And then obviously in May, I started working. And then fortunately, our summer baseball league went through. We played a whole season, which was really fortunate because a lot of people didn't get to do that. So over the course of summer, I was working and playing baseball, and that kind of took up most of my time. And then we came back into the fall, and then things weren't, completely normal, but we were, again, Westminster is very fortunate that they made the decision for us to come back in the fall, do a in-person semester. And that really, I think, helped a lot of people. It helped me kind of get through that and put that in the past and really continue to gain and build those experiences a lot of people unfortunately didn't have the ability to have. So, that's kind of what I did to get through those times. And a part of me, again, kind of just sitting down and thinking, okay, here's the situation, here's what I need to do, here's how I can get through this. And I made the most of, any opportunity that came my way.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly really important. And I really don't know if I could say it any better, but I do know April's been pretty quiet for a little while. But from what I've know and learned about her, that she's somebody that is pretty adept at this point at kind of navigating points of uncertainty. So I just want to see if she kind of has anything to chime in right about now, just because I know this is something that she's familiar with and kind of had to deal with numerous times herself.
Yeah, I was thinking back to what Sean had said about in the beginning, we were talking about the uniqueness and the importance of choosing a small college if that's the right fit for you and having that support from your professors because they're going to be in your corner. And that's something that really made the biggest difference to me when this entire thing happened, because our professors didn't have to hand out their personal phone numbers. Our professors didn't have to make themselves available. But that for me really made it feel like we were more like a family. And that's, I mean, for the business department, I feel like it's always been that way. Our professors really do take a real life family interest in us. But to have that experience from home and to see just how much they were willing to give and the time that they didn't have to, and you were getting like a real inside look at their home, their dogs, their kids, the whole thing, like they were volunteering to come to us, like drive to us if we needed them for any extra help. Like that for me was that was just the best thing to see, and that really made everything worth it for me during that time, because I didn't feel alone at all. I was like, I can text them, I can call them, they like genuinely care, they will answer. And yeah, that's something I just wanted to make sure that I said.
Yeah, and I think that kind of just goes back to the point that we had made about a support system. I mean, that's one of the things that really we haven't talked about too heavily on the show as of yet to this point. But I think it's also something that's really important where, a lot of us are kind of small circle people as far as people that are, like doing this right now, where we're a little bit more focused on the future rather than right now, and a little less on partying and a little more on how I'm going to make money, different things like that. But you still need that group. And that's where, whether that's your professors, whether that's your family, whatever that looks like for you, like it's still, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's still just, it can provide a lot of peace of mind just knowing that you have somebody or something, that form of community to kind of help pick you up, or not necessarily help pick you up, but just knowing that they're there, even if you can pick yourself up, no matter what that looks like, just kind of having the peace of mind that they're there. If you need them, somebody is willing to help you through, whatever struggle that may be. Just kind of that idea helps you feel a little bit more comfortable, and can help you as far as getting through those fears or doubts, beliefs, whatever that may be. So I just think that it's been kind of a big part of what we talked about today, but I think it's been a really important part as well. um I do believe we're kind of at the point that we could start to wind it down a little bit. I know we've been on here for, I don't know, probably about a half an hour so far. But Sean, one question that I always like to ask the guests when we're kind of closing things down, and you answer this as you will, but I always like to ask if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself, like in that ground zero moment. For you, it was your, fall of your freshman year. If you could have that conversation with yourself, kind of knowing what you do now with what you've learned since, what do you think you would tell yourself in that conversation?
Ooh, that's definitely a big question. A question I'd like the answer for sure. So if I were to walk up to myself sitting there on the stairs outside of my dorm room, I would definitely tell myself that, listen, like this is good. This is a life lesson. Definitely something, to remember how you felt at this moment. But I also say that, listen, it definitely gets better. You will get through this, and you'll look back at this and almost thank yourself, not for getting in that situation, but kind of finding finding a way to get through it, and taking upon yourself to make things better, and you'll be satisfied when you're graduating, or when you see your name in the starting lineup, or just to continue to keep going, don't give up, and just always reach out for advice. I've reached out for advice a million times, whether it's asking a coach a question, or staying after the professor, or even during my internship, walking into my boss's office 37 times a day asking if this looks good, or if he wants me to change something. So asking for advice is always the biggest thing, because by asking, it shows that you want to learn, you want to succeed, you are interested in what you're working on, and that goes a long way. There have been a lot of professors who see that, and have given you a point or two to get your grade to the next level, or a coach who remembers that, and makes a change in the lineup, or even an employer who is borderline on something, will give you that promotion, or give you that opportunity. So I would just say always ask for advice. That's the biggest thing for me. That's, I think, what's got me this far, because I don't know everything. I honestly don't know half the things I probably should know, but I feel by asking and being interested and wanting to do better is definitely what's gotten me to this point this far.
Yeah, and I think that really you made multiple great points there, and I don't even think I could say it better myself, so I'm not going to try. But just kind of reiterating, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like in whatever that looks like for you, whether that be from a professor, where some of us might not have that opportunity, but just don't be afraid to kind of reach out to somebody and ask. I know that there's even on the professional side, like if you listen to a podcast where there was a guest on there that said something that spoke to you, you know, if they're, huge, then it's a little less likely. But sometimes if it's more of like a small time show or something like that, these people are approachable and they're willing to help you out, give you some advice. Like a lot of people, if you just kind of share with them where you're at, they're going to remember being in your shoes, and they're willing to kind of say, you know what, I wish somebody would have helped me, gave me this hand when I was there. And they're going to be willing to connect with you, be willing to help you through that. Just kind of drop whatever, knowledge bombs they may have. But they're, the point being that there are people out there that are willing to help you, and you might not even know them. So I think a lot of that just comes back to kind of surrendering yourself to opportunity. So with that, rather than to reiterate again, um, Sean, I really appreciate you coming on today. This is our third student interview now. So definitely excited for the direction that we're going. You rocked it, man. I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing your story. Some people find it difficult to get behind the camera and kind of open up about these things, but you did a tremendous job, spoke very well. And once again, just very, very appreciative of you coming on and, being willing to share. April, is there anything you want to kind of add before we go ahead and close it out?
No, just the same thing. Like, thank you for sharing your experience. And I'm, really happy that I get to meet both of you and work with both of you just from the Westminster experience. It's the same thing that Sean was talking about earlier on, like just getting involved and jumping in. You just never know who you're going to meet. Sean, you've connected me with people to, connect with jobs and stuff. So I appreciate you and what you're doing, and congratulations on where you're at.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has always been an awesome opportunity. I enjoy doing this. I think it's cool to kind of talk about these things. So this was an awesome experience for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Sean. I can't say it enough. Thank you. And with that, everyone, always remember, this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero, and there's nowhere to go from here but up. Thanks, guys.